Hi, my name's Steve Fawcett, and I'm in Calcutta, India. It's a big city, 20 million people. It's the third largest city in India, and it is a shocker. We're going to be looking at Mother Teresa and the almost 100-year legacy she's left in this city of Calcutta, India. We'll be walking in the places where she walked, going to the places that she went, and helping the people that she helped. I hope you join me as we walk in the footsteps of Mother Teresa. So this is the epicenter of shoes in Calcutta. Ah, that's better, I think. Maybe. A little too tight. I'm thinking some black leather. How much are these? You have the brown color? He's brought me so many shoes. Now it's up to me making up my mind. I'm looking at getting these ones. They're about double the price. I think they'll hold up a little bit better walking around the city. So there we go. I got the new shoes I wanted. Indian shoes for an Indian journey. If you look at the travel guides on the internet for markets in Calcutta, you'll get a host of very good hits. On our first day in town, we visited a market called New Market. It was established in 1874, so it's not that new.
This is Red Building, New Market.
Okay.
One minute.
Wait.
One. Okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's me.
Very nice camera.
Thank you.
Very nice camera.
It was a shopping destination to cater for the needs of the British residents in India and has now grown into perhaps the most beloved shopping arcade in all Calcutta. The Calcutta Corporation created the existing version of the New Market. It was originally named Sir Stuart Hogg Market in the year 1903, and then Hogg Market after its founder. It was the first of its kind in the state of Bengal, so the name New Market soon caught on, and it's been the same ever since. So what's so amazing about this market? It's not only the original building, but the whole of the area could be described as a gigantic maze of shops selling everything under the sun. From clothes to footwear, jewelry to household appliances, electronic gadgets, toys, foods, drinks. If you can think of it, it's there. There are also a number of Western-style places to eat in this area as well, and have a coffee, just around the giant Spider-Man replica. I found it so good to have a proper coffee in this British tea haven. If you are foreign looking, you will soon be spotted and be brought to vendors for a handsome commission. Be ready to bargain and know your limits. They are some of the best salesmen in the world.
Quality. Kashmir, silk scarf. You can use it for dress, for suit. Everybody using Kashmiri silk scarf. Feel the quality. Take few pieces because I'm selling 2,500. I'm making you 1,500. No,
1,500.
no, I'm selling 2,500.
He said 1,500.
I did my English not very good.
Next on my list of first things to do here in Calcutta, I want to make a stop at church. I want to check on my friend Binu and find out how his new church is going.
Angels are on your side. Because God is on your side. Amen. Hallelujah.
I was able to catch up with Binu after church, and we talked a little bit about the living situation in Calcutta.
There's over 5,000 slums in the city of Calcutta.
Wow.
Literally over 1 million people live in the slums in the city. Slums.
When you say slums, what do you mean? Like no electricity, no running water?
Yeah, slums are basically places where people kind of live in a very crowded environment. They don't have a proper housing. It's all makeshift housing. Some of them do have electricity, but most of them they don't have proper connections. So it's basically electricity that illegally get, or somehow they survive. There is no water supply. There are no sewage for toilets. So people just live in a very small and a crowded environment. So the situation in the slums are such that it's not conducive for a healthy family.
Right.
For kids to grow up, it's not a good environment. People are taken advantage of there definitely, and because it's a survival of the fittest. When you come to a slum, people are struggling to survive, so you can imagine the worst case scenarios. I'm inside the Uttadanga slum, one of the largest slums in all Calcutta. And as you can see, the water's running through the middle of the pavement. It's very hot, somewhere around 38 degrees, and people are pressed together in this place. It's been here for over 50 years. And there's not much movement out of this place. There's one little small government school, and there's a mentality in, hello. There's a mentality in the people that it's just all right to stay.
Basanti slum, also known as Uttadanga, is one of the largest slum areas in Calcutta. 1/3 of Calcutta's population lives in 2,000 registered and 3,500 unregistered slums. On January 12, 2010, a fire broke out here in this slum, killing one man and leaving many homeless. The government did rebuild the area, and the people ended up moving back in again. As soon as you get out of the plane, you can feel it. And not only that, you can definitely smell it. Calcutta has a tropical, wet, and dry climate. It has average winter temperatures ranging from 15 to 30 degrees Celsius, that's 60 to 86 Fahrenheit. And summer temps range from 30, which is 86 Fahrenheit, to often exceeding 40 Celsius, which is 104 degrees Fahrenheit. One issue causing the smell is the lack of toilets. Nearly 40,000 houses here in Calcutta go without a proper toilet. If you're a guy, it would be a little bit easier to get by, but can you imagine the struggle if you're a woman? Up to 10% of Calcutta's population live on the street or in a shanty town without proper sanitation. That means many people end up sleeping near where someone else has defecated just a few hours earlier. Here in the Western world, we take toilets for granted. We expect there to be a toilet everywhere we go, but that's just not the case in Calcutta. To understand the people, you have to understand the problems they face.
Here we are at the Queen Victoria Memorial in Calcutta. This building is so full of history and intrigue, and in many ways it tells the story of the British being here in India. But you know what, before we tell that story, let's look at the history of the country of India itself. The history of India can be traced back to one of the three great civilizations of the world. There was Egypt, where we got the pyramids. There was Mesopotamia, where we've got the Fertile Crescent. And then there was the Indus Valley, which is between modern-day Pakistan and India.
The history of this region goes back some 3,000 years before Christ, and it abruptly ends about 1,000 years BC, when the area was just too dry to support the amount of people in it. The people then dispersed and went to other parts of the Indian subcontinent.
India remained a patchwork of kingdoms and empires for the next 2,000 or so years, until about 1,000 years after Christ, enter the Mughals. And the Mughals reigned in India for about 600 years until the British came. The British entered India in the 1600s with a number of different trading posts that they rented from the local authorities, the East India Trading Company. In many ways, the British were just following in the footsteps of the Dutch and the Portuguese, especially into this area of Calcutta. They would have never imagined the amount of influence they would have over this country in just a few years to come. The Indus Valley is between modern-day Pakistan and India. It's a valley where the Indus River runs, and hence we have the name India.
We also get a number of other names from Indus. Hindu, for example, is a common name that refers to religion nowadays. That comes from the word Indus as well. India is a very religious place. There are millions of gods in India. Right next to Mother Teresa's house is the temple to the goddess Kali. And all set up around the house are various stalls with items that pilgrims buy to sacrifice to the goddess Kali. We were able to go inside and they showed us where they sacrifice a buffalo and put incense that burns all the time. And every day they'll sacrifice a goat. It's real interesting that the religion still continues to go on and on. I know with us as Christians, Jesus died once and for all for our sins. Many of them are just literally afraid that if they don't do this, that something bad's going to become of them. This is the goddess Kali, and that's her husband Shiva that she's standing on. Notice that her skirt is human arms, and her necklace is human heads, and she has 4 arms, one with a decapitated head. Even before the British arrived, the Islamic rulers were here for hundreds of years. There are many, many mosques, and every morning I'm reminded at 4 a.m. there's a call to prayer. So I stop fighting it, I just get up and I pray.
Each person has his own favorite god. They call that in Hindi Ishta Dev, means my favorite god. Ishta Dev. Ishta means my favorite. Yeah. In a house of 5 or 6 people, you will usually find the photos of 6 or 4 or 5 different gods. So the moment you talk about Jesus and they like Jesus Christ, they accept Jesus Christ, they add Jesus also into that line of gods. And the thing is, once we get in, the moment we tell them Jesus is the only God, that's where their actual problem starts. I know they go to different pujas. The moment we talk about only Jesus, it's like they think we are trying to cut them out of their community and trying to make them Christians, and so that's where they kind of close the door for us.
So when they stop going to the puja, they are ostracized.
They are excommunicated from the society. Absolutely, they won't be able to participate in any of the family events. They are not considered to be, the position they had in the family, they won't have it anymore. For the family events, they are not invited anymore. Any wedding, anybody gets a new house, and housewarming, these people are not invited. Wedding here in Bengal, especially this part of India, it's like a big family gathering, and it's like a celebration for the family.
Yeah.
So some of them are there like 2 or 3 days before the wedding, and it's like a big celebration for them.
Okay.
So if somebody is not invited for the wedding, means it's a big shame for them. They pay a big price for being a Christian, being converted and being a Christian. But on the other side, we are so excited, God is really moving, and we can see the result, even in our local church and the other part of, even north part of Bengal.
Okay.
Yeah, there are a lot of people coming forward, accepting Jesus Christ in spite of all this persecution. The Lord is really working in the hearts of people.
We took a walk over the Howrah Bridge from the Howrah station, and there we found the very large flower market. A gigantic area full of colors and aromas just by the river. More flowers than you could ever imagine, believe me. It's a sight to see. Flowers come here from all over the country. Some are rare, some are exotic, some are common, everyday varieties. They're all sold by local vendors around the city. It is said this is the cheapest place to buy flowers en masse before they reach the local markets. I couldn't imagine a use for this many flowers, but flowers are an integral part of everyday life in Calcutta. They celebrate everything from special holy days to special celebrations, and none is more prevalent than the orange marigold. More than just a romantic thing a guy would give his girlfriend, flowers are used mostly in religious worship. Flowers are strung together and used as offerings at the temple of many a deity. There's so many different kinds of religions here in India. We just took a look at the Hindu religion, but also the Muslim religion was dominant here for many, many years. The Mughals ruled most of India from the Sultanate in Delhi, and different sultans around the country would rule their area. They called this the Mughal Empire. They brought from Mosul, Iraq, a special way to make clothing. We all seem to take for granted, our nice clothes today and that you can just go out and buy clothes. But then everything had to be made by hand. This area of India, Calcutta, became an epicenter for making various types of textiles and cloth. This caused the British, the Portuguese, the Dutch to want to come into this area. The British leased from the local Muslim ruler 3 cities that are in the area of modern-day Calcutta today. At one point, the tensions between the British and the local Muslim ruler got so bad that they basically revoked the lease and kicked all the British out of this area. It was a crisis point. The British, they in turn raised an army of their people plus an army of the local men, which are called sepoys, and they went up against this Muslim prince, Saraj Ayudallah. And they won. They threw him out of the area, and this really established the British trading posts here in this area of India. It was called the Battle of Plassey in 1757. After the British established themselves here, thousands came over from Europe to make their fortune. They worked in the textile industry, trading the Muslim. They worked in government. They built buildings. But many of them became sick. It was so hot here, that rained a lot. There was yellow fever. There was dysentery. And many of them died at a young age. Though they came to make their fortune, many of them died here trying. Well, I hope you have a better idea of what this part of India is like. This is the world that Sister Teresa entered into over 80 years ago. The scale of poverty and need was much greater back then, greater than I can ever show here. British rule came to an end when she was here, just after World War II. The world would drastically change then. In many ways, this cemetery speaks of ends. Mainly British Christians are buried here. Hindus burn their dead and place them in the rivers. The names of these live on through their monuments. Many British men and women came and left their marks here. Their legacy remains in India in many different ways. In the very English language they speak, in the sports Indians play, in the architecture, government structures, and physical infrastructure of the country. Ghosts of the British remain in all these things. Mother Teresa gave us a spiritual legacy, one that put love in action, feet to prayers, and hands to the hurting. She did this while under a vow of chastity, poverty, and obedience, a vow she never broke, but one she added to complete and selfless service to the poorest of the poor. In our next few episodes, we'll take a deeper look at her life and her ministry. I hope you'll join me then as we continue to walk in the footsteps of faith.